My name's Alistair Roberts from Media Heroes, and in this video we're going to have a look at the process of SEO, or search engine optimization. Now we're going to focus on looking at some parallels between Formula One motor racing and SEO. Now not only does this make it a bit more fun and engaging to discuss the content, but there's also some really key lessons that we can learn from the process that you go through in Formula One motor racing, but also having a look at the role that you play as a business owner in your own SEO campaign, and understanding how that works in relation to F1 and SEO will make it really clear for you. And it's an area that a lot of business owners get it wrong. There are two important similarities between SEO and F1. One of those is the history of both of the industries. And secondly is the model for success. Yeah, and we can learn from both of these. So let's have a look at the shared history first of all, because that's going to give us a bit of context to understand. Okay, so let's get into it and have a look. First thing we want to look at is the background to SEO, so that we get a bit of context. We can see that Google only launched in 1998, and the SEO industry, arguably only around the year 2000 that it really started to gain some traction as an industry itself. So at best, SEO has been around for say 14 or 16 years. And it's no wonder that a lot of business owners have found it a bit overwhelming in the pace that this has changed for. Because for many of them, SEO has only been important for their business for maybe 10 years, 5 years, and in some cases only the last couple of years that it's really started to bite and become important for them. Now, in the early days of SEO, around 2000, 2001, 2, 3, SEO was dominated mostly by business owners learning how to do it themselves, with some SEO professionals operating in there as well. But it was a real mix, and there was a lot of do-it-yourself campaigns running. The rules were relatively simple, and they were relatively well known. Over time, and it quickly began to build momentum, you started to see more and more people using the internet to find local businesses. So investment increased in it. You found that it became more and more competitive, and that became much more the domain of professional SEO companies. So it became harder and harder for business owners to actually keep up and compete in the market. Between 2009 and 2014, we've seen a massive increase in complexity to actually achieve results on Google. Investment has absolutely exploded in the SEO industry. We've seen the collapse of things like the Yellow Pages book, which happened well before 2009, but other print media as well, and more money going towards digital marketing. In most markets now, in most industries now, a business owner running their own SEO campaign is very, very unusual. It's virtually impossible for them to compete because it is just so specialized now and so competitive. And they're up against SEO companies. And even within SEO itself, we've found in the last few years, it's not just a single SEO consultant now that can do everything. There are specialisms within SEO itself. So very, very hard for business owners now. What we've also seen is now it's become beyond rankings. It's not just about coming up for a 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 keywords, and that's where all the glory lies. It's actually much more now about delivering a return on investment and actually making money. And it should have always been about that, and it was to a degree, but it's become a lot more focused on that now as it's become more competitive. So if we have a look at Google from 98 till now, in 1998 it was a university project. Very few people using the web to find local businesses, whereas today it's the third most valuable brand in the world. 80% plus consumers will use the web, and most of them will use Google. 94% of those will use Google, that's their market share. But 80% plus of consumers use the web to find a local business. Your ranking on Google now, massively competitive, but the rewards for you as a business owner are also huge. So you've got to take note of it, and you've got to learn to win this race. If we look at Formula One and where Formula One has come from, started in 1946, and for the first 10, certainly probably first 20 years plus, it was dominated by manufacturers and also by the drivers. It was a very, very big focus on the drivers during that period of time, and there was less sort of, you didn't have these big teams operating. It was pretty rough and ready, and it was big bravery on these guys, and big powerful cars, but it wasn't very technologically advanced. During the 60s through to 1975 area, roughly, you found that you saw a big increase of technology, massive increase in competition. You started to see big sponsors coming into the sport, money pouring into the sport. And obviously that was tied up with the television and everything else that went with it. In the late 70s, there were still relatively few rules. They had a series of major accidents, and it was a big turning point for the industry. There was concerns over safety and fairness, and they started to bring in a lot more rules and make it a lot more complex. What you found during that period of time is that this increased the complexity because the rules increased. There was a big focus on the technology, and it became increasingly scientific. And this has happened from the 80s through to now. They're very process-driven, very scientific in their approach. There's a lot more people involved in the race teams now, and it's really got beyond the driver. The drivers are still critically important, but we're now looking at this. This is big business, F1. So there's been a big change. If we look at where F1 started in those early years, and you can see on the pictures on the left-hand side, one thing to note is that in neither of those pictures, there's not a single tire touching the road. These guys are gunning it. They're not worried about suspension. They're not worried about brakes. It's all about power, and it's about the bravery and winning and pushing these cars to the limit. What we found is that has changed considerably over this period of time. And if I show you this quick video, you can have a look and just get a feeling for what Formula One is now, so that you can see what we're talking about.
He's out of the European Grand Prix. Tried to stick with Hamilton to give it everything these tires have got now. Box. Turning on. Oh, fantastic. Mark is coming in as well. The last sector is like a lake. Yeah, so proud of you. Front wing surely damaged. Whoa! Sebastian Vettel wins again. Pole position. That was some kind of dominant performance. Lewis Hamilton wins brilliantly. Oh! Hurry up with the job you're doing. You will be racing with the exit. Grazie now. Is everything okay? Everything okay? Listen, everything is good. Everything is good.
It's a pretty cool video, right? It's hard not to be excited about Formula One, even if you don't like Formula One, when you see a video like that. You see the pit crews there and the number of people involved. You see the technology involved, the excitement of the race. It's amazing. And what I want you to do as a business owner is take that excitement that you feel by watching a video like that and apply that to your SEO. Now, I don't mean that you need to become excited about the mechanics of SEO. Just like when you watch that video, you're not excited about the mechanics, most people aren't, about the mechanics of the car itself and how exactly the car's tuned to do that. You're excited about what the result is at the end of the day. The thing that excites me about SEO is what it can do for your business, and that's what should excite you about it. So use that excitement and apply it. Now, when we look at the development, the history of SEO and Formula One, there's a lot of similarities. What you've seen is that in the early days of both industries, that you had a relatively low competition, smaller number of players involved, relatively few rules, the rules were pretty well known, the game was pretty simple. Then as time progressed, more and more people came into the industry, money poured into the industry, which made it a lot more competitive and a lot more professional. And the rules of the game changed radically. So they became a much more complex, much more rule-driven. And what that did is increase the professionalism of the sport. It also meant that processes, in order to get results, became much more important. And they both, SEO and Formula One, had to become more scientific to deliver consistent results. Now, the difference is that Formula One took 60 years to do this. The SEO has only been around for, at the best, 16 years. So that's why the development has been so quick. Now, what's interesting is the model for success for SEO and Formula One is pretty much the same. So you've got to learn and apply that model if you want to get consistent results. Now, looking at the speed of change, it's no wonder that business owners have been overtaken, or many business owners have been overtaken by the speed of change in SEO. But you have a choice. Yeah. At this point, if you are not already making the most out of SEO or getting a significant amount of your business through your website, you have to catch up. You have to get in this race and you have to learn how to win. And quite simply, for most businesses, you're going to get left behind. And the longer you leave it, the harder it's going to be for you to get in the race and learn how to win. Yeah. So learn and understand the model of success. Learn how to beat your competitors. And use the parallels with F1 to sort of get the concept, because it's pretty simple really when you look at it. All right, so let's have a look at the model. So what you're going to learn most in the model here is just the process for success. Yeah, and it's pretty basic. If you want long-term success, you really have to follow this model and understand it. When we look at it, there's 4 main stages to the model, but there's actually a pre-stage to that. So the pre-stage is you've got to understand the rules of the game and who sets them. Then the first stage is planning, second is preparation, third is the race, and fourth is assessment and improvement. So we're going to go through each of these and just have a bit of an exploration of them. First one, this is the rules of the game. So we've got to understand who sets them. In Formula One, it's the FIA. Every season they change the rules and they publish those rules, and all the race teams have to adhere to them for the whole season. And they'll dictate things like how much power the car can have, and additions to the car like turbos. But everyone knows them. If you break the rules, even by a little bit, then you're going to get a penalty from the FIA. It could be points, could be money, could be a combination of the two. If you break the rules too badly, they're going to disqualify you. In SEO, the person who sets the rules is Google. They've got a 94% market share, so they're setting the rules. The thing is, though, they don't just change the rules once a season. They change them more than once a day. Last year, there were 501 algorithm changes that Google made. So this is constant. Yeah. The other thing is that with Formula One, they publish the rules. Google doesn't. With Google, not only does it change the rules all the time, but they're a secret. Yeah, making it really hard for business owners to know what to do and what not to do, because it's a constantly moving goal, and and they don't tell you what it is. So the reason that you can overcome that, the way you can overcome that, is A, having a really solid process. B, as an SEO company, it's dedicating time and effort to research and development, testing, so that you can see what Google is responding to at different times and what those algorithm changes mean. Again, with SEO, if you break the rules that Google is setting, at the best case scenario, it's going to penalize you, which might mean a little bit of a drop in the rankings. It could be a more severe penalty where you're pushed right back to page 10 and held there until you fix the issue. And the worst case scenario, then it can disqualify you altogether. So it's really the same. If we now look at the model and start with the planning process, let's have a look at that. There are 2 parts to the planning process. The first is goals and the second is strategy. Now, in goals, this is about understanding what we want to achieve out of the season and out of the race and out of the season and beyond. Now, in Formula One, every team doesn't start out with a realistic goal of winning the World Championship this year. If you look back at the more recent history, unless you're Red Bull or Ferrari, you probably don't stand a strong chance of winning. Now, I know the other teams may argue a difference on that, but in the last 10 years, I think there's only one other team that's actually won the championship in that time. Now, plenty of teams have won races. Plenty of teams have got podium finishes, have beaten their results from the year before, have had less accidents. Yet they're the goals they tend to set for themselves. Micro goals to start to hit and achieve towards the end goal of the World Championship. The other thing they've got to set as an F1 team is they've got to stay financially viable. So they've got to have goals around retaining sponsors and building sponsors. Now, if you look at SEO, if you just go for, I want to be page 1, position 1, and that's my success measure, or nothing for all my keywords, it's unrealistic. So it depends where you start from. Obviously, it's the same as an F1 team. It depends what your starting point is. What you've got to ask yourself is not, I want to set an abstract goal of a ranking, but what you've got to set yourself is, you've got to understand, what do you need to do to make money from your SEO campaign? So that's an understanding of how much a new customer is worth to you, customer lifetime value. And then measuring how many new customers this campaign is generating for you. So you can see on a month-to-month basis, is it profitable or isn't it? Yeah, it's really that simple. And when you look at, there's a basic equation, which is just, the SEO is about attracting high-quality visitors to your website. Your website is about turning those high-quality visitors into inquiries so that you can convert them into dollars. So quite simply, it's visitors times conversion rate equals inquiries. Yeah, and that's what you need to focus on. Now, when you look at strategy, this is about how do we achieve those goals that we're setting out for ourselves. So for Formula One, you got to have the right car, the right driver, the right team behind you, and then that's for the season, for example. For each race, you have a race strategy as well. So you break it down into a series of smaller targets that you want to do. Same in SEO. You want to break it down into a series of months rather than just focusing on a 12-month goal. There needs to be some goals in between. So for F1, the strategy, right car, right driver, right team. For every race, they're going to set up individual race specifications. What do I need at each race? What's my strategy? So what they're going to look at is they're going to look at things like the track, so overtaking potential, length of the pit lane, likely weather. That will all influence the strategy for each individual race. For SEO, you need to understand in your strategy side, are you going for, a suburb-based SEO campaign, only 10 kilometers from your business? Are you going for a city-based campaign? Still a local SEO, but city-based. You want to come up for Brisbane or Sydney or Melbourne or a combination? Or are you going for national optimization? Are you primarily wanting to generate inquiries, or are you primarily wanting to sell product online, like as an e-commerce store would? What are the search volumes in your industry, and how concentrated are they? Are people searching with a very wide variety of keywords or a very narrow focus? Are you focusing on B2B or B2C? How much is the competitive intensity in your industry? Because that'll dictate how you need to come up with an action plan to overcome that. So you can see how important the planning phase is, and so many people don't define their goals clearly, and they don't understand what the strategy is to achieve those goals. So you've got to start at this stage. What you can see here is, the ultimate image of finishing the race and winning. Keep your goals in mind of ultimately what you want to achieve. But remember, your goal isn't rankings. Your goal is business. You want to be generating new business. So that's your goal. And look, if you get a page one, position one along the way, celebrate that as a success, but just don't make that your obsession. Otherwise, it'll lead you down the wrong path. Great. So let's have a look at the preparation stage. And in here, you've got the vehicle and you've got tuning and improvements. So the vehicle that we want to look at, so what we were talking about in the vehicle is in Formula One, they're taking a car built exactly for the purpose. So they're taking a Formula One car, which is new each season, with new specs, and they've got a certain amount of horsepower, etc. They're never going to enter into a Formula One race, a Formula 3 car, because it can't win. Just the same as they're not going to enter into this year's Formula One, they're not going to enter a Formula One car from 1960. It just can't win. So the same applies to SEO. You've got to have the right website for the job. So a lot of websites are built by web companies that are not experts in SEO. Much worse is you get your website built overseas or it's a cheap template. It's just not suitable for the job of ranking highly on Google because it isn't built to do that. And for people to understand that there's a difference between different types of websites and that some websites just can't perform on Google is really critical to understand. So don't enter, your SEO race with the wrong vehicle, the wrong website to start with. The build, the coding, all of that can be different. So start with the right vehicle. Then when we look at tuning and improvements, in Formula One, we talked about the differences between tracks, so overtaking, the camber of the track, weather, all of this stuff. So before every race, they have race-specific tuning. So this looks at brakes, suspension, gearbox ratios, tires, all this stuff. And they set that before the race. In addition, they use data and analytics from race trials, so when they're doing race warm-ups, but also from the last race to continually improve that vehicle. So they have sensors on the vehicles that they use, and they get phenomenal amounts of data, and they use that to keep improving the car. They also monitor whether things need to be replaced or whether there are aspects of the setup of the car that are not producing maximum power or the maximum ability to turn, etc., etc. So they're constantly refining and changing that car. In addition, you've got to think about the car that it only really has a lifespan. An F1 car has a lifespan of one season. An engine might only have a lifespan of maybe 5-6 races, that's it. So they're not going to last forever. If you keep racing the same car, again and again, without making improvements to it or even replacing it entirely, it's going to get worse and worse performance. In SEO, it's the same. The tuning and improvements before each race, and in SEO, the race is continual, so you still have to continually look at tuning and improvements. That's on-site optimization. So you're tuning up the way the website works in relation to what Google's looking for. And this can be changes to do with the algorithm as well, of course, that you have to keep changing these things. You might need to replace parts of the website. You might need to build additional pages. You might need to do a whole range of things depending on what you're trying to achieve. But you need to use data and analytics, we're talking about Google Analytics here, to understand and make changes based on the facts that are in front of you. One important thing is that don't expect your website to last forever, just like an F1 car won't. Now, a website will have a lifespan of maybe 3 to 4 years. So if your website's older than that, what you'll find is that it's going to be much, much harder for that site to continue to rank. And it's going to get worse and worse performance over time. You'll also find that older sites they have a drop-off in conversion rate as well. So you get a double whammy when your website's too old. But even within the 3-4 years you have the website, expect to spend money and improving it and keeping it up to date so it keeps current, so that there's tuning going on the whole time. So just gives you a quick image of a Formula One in, obviously you're getting some tuning and some changes here and changing out parts and, addressing the car. And you can see the number of people involved in this, and over on the left-hand side, using the computer to see various things on the car itself to make these changes. Third stage, we enter the race. Now, this is where we look at the driver and the race team. With Formula One, look at the driver first of all. They're taking control of the car, they're executing the strategy, and they're responding to an onslaught of information. Both tactile information, that they can feel the car, they've got the weather hitting them, but they've also got all the instruments that they can see and respond to. At the same time, they're also in constant contact with their race team. So that the race team may be telling them to back off, to push harder, they need to be doing certain aspects. There's aspects of strategy, when to come into the pits, etc., etc. So they're completely reliant on that connection with their race team as well. In SEO, it's the same. Your driver, if you like, in SEO world is your campaign manager or SEO consultant. And they're managing the campaign. They're taking control of the campaign and deciding where to put resources to get better and better performance out of your website and generate more money for you. And the same way, they're in constant contact with their team. So they'll have a team of technical specialists, and that can be covering on-site SEO, content, conversion rate optimization, to actually move resources around so that they can get the best possible performance out of that website. If we look at the race team in Formula One, who's involved? Well, you've got the team boss, which is typically the owner of the team or a significant financial backer. Technical specialists, research and development, aerodynamics, mechanics, and drivers, they're all involved. In SEO, you've got the business owner, you. You've got a digital strategist who might set the strategy in the initial phases and do some element of business coaching or consulting with you to make sure that whatever solution is developed is fitting your aims of the business. You've then got your campaign manager who's actually then delivering that strategy and is constantly changing and altering the strategy according to the data that they're receiving. Yeah, so they're the person that will make ongoing changes. Then you've got on-site SEO, link building specialists, content writers, conversion rate optimization, designers, all these other people involved. So it's a very specialist field. Now, if we look at this image here, it just shows you this is the Williams team. And you can see how many people are involved in Formula One. It's huge. Fortunately, in SEO, you don't need quite that many people. But the point is, you do need to have specialists in their own field to make this work. So if we have a look at the next section, the last one, assessment and improvement. And what we're looking here is data and analysis that we're reliant on. In Formula One, there are between 150 and 300 sensors on the vehicles. And those sensors are dictating performance of different parts, G-forces experienced by the car, grip. Every aspect that you can imagine in that car has got a sensor for, giving them feedback so they can see exactly the performance of that vehicle. Now, they use this information in the pit to make certain changes to the car, but also, most importantly, they're going to use this between races. And what they're going to use this for is to see how they can get better performance out of the car and continually improve. And this is where it feeds back into the strategy phase and into the preparation phase. So what in our strategy worked, what didn't work? Okay, now that we've got the data, how do we prepare for the next race? So this is where they take that data and they use it to retune the vehicle, the website, and change the strategy so that they can get better performance and move forward. In SEO, the tools they use, tools your campaign manager will use will be things like Google Analytics. They'll use heat mapping. They might use duplicate content tests, toxic links, page speed, a whole range of things. So what they're looking at here is the on-site and off-site optimization they're doing, which is really looking at how is Google responding to what we're doing. Are we going up and down? Why? Secondly, they're looking at these tools to look at the conversion rate optimization. When people land on the website, are they doing what we expect them to do or not? If they're not and they're not converting, the campaign's not being successful. So they need to change tack. With SEO, it's not, there's no race, stop, think, next race. SEO is continual. So this process goes round and round and needs to be done. It needs to be done all the time. This just gives you an idea of the Red Bull team, the sort of sensors that they're looking at during a race. It's like a NASA control room there. Now, SEO is not quite as sexy as that, but it's the same idea. You're using data to make decisions. And if your SEO company isn't collecting and using that data to make decisions, then they're flying blind and they're simply guessing. Yep. And that's really important for you as a business owner to recognize that. So that's the model for success. It's really important in SEO that you don't think about SEO as throwing a few keywords on the page and hoping for the best, or building a ton of links and hoping that Google's going to respond to it. It won't. This is a process that you have to go through. If you haven't got a process, you haven't got any consistency, and you probably haven't got a chance. You need the right vehicle, you need the right strategy, the right team, constant improvement and reinvestment. Do this and you'll get consistent success. Not necessarily overnight, because there's no such thing as overnight success, but you'll build towards the right aim. Okay, so let's have a quick race recap. Number one, as a business owner, you're an F1 team boss, which is pretty cool. Yeah, your SEO campaign manager is a Formula One racing driver, also pretty cool. To win, you need a great team working in unison. It sounds obvious, but it's not how most people operate. What's really important is that you are part of that team and you've got a specific role. You're the team boss. So you've got to understand what role you need to play to be successful. Another really important point is your website is a Formula One racing car. It's built exactly for the purpose that it needs to, exactly for the purpose that it's intended. It's built for the race. It's highly tuned and it's continually tuned. Yeah, so you can't just enter any car in that race. You can't enter any website and expect success. Once you're running your campaign, use data and reporting to make adjustments. Make adjustments to how Google interprets the information to get better rankings, and really critically, you've also got to make adjustments to the conversion rate based on the user experience and the user journey, so you can get from the same amount of visitors more outcome, more inquiries. Understand that the rules of the game will change all the time. Google's never going to stop changing the rules. So don't worry about it. Embrace the fact that it's doing that. If you're able to move faster and are working with an SEO company that uses this to their advantage by staying on top of this stuff, then ultimately you're going to win. There's no silver bullet and there's no shortcut, so stop looking for them. If something looks too good to be true, it is. Yeah. Trying to cheat Google or find a shortcut is a recipe for disaster. Maybe if you're really lucky, 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 times, you might get some short-term results. But ultimately, Google are going to see what you're doing and your site's going to get heavily penalized. And it may take you months, if not years, to recover from that. It's just not worth it. Like anything, winning takes commitment. It doesn't matter whether it's Formula One, SEO, athletics, winning takes commitment, dedication, and persistence. There's no difference in it. So once you see it like that, it starts to make a lot more sense for you. So, is it all worthwhile? That's the question. The sweet taste of victory. I think what's important, look at this guy. He looks pretty happy. This should be you. You can imagine yourself thinking, God, my business is running well. My SEO is killing it. I'm having a great time. A lot of you might be looking at SEO after seeing a video like this or doing your research and feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all. Because look, there is a lot to take in, and especially if you're not a specialist in this and you're learning it for the first time. But it's, the question is it worth it? Absolutely worth it. SEO can be the single biggest factor to the success of your business and the growth of your business, especially when it's combined with a good website that converts well. So persist with it, find the right partner to work with, and do well with this, because it's a fantastic process. And it's not just about, for a business owner, I recognize, because I'm a business owner as well, it's not just about, increasing revenue or doing better in business. This affects your livelihood in your life. A 10 or 20% increase in profits for you makes a big difference. It allows you to make different choices, and understanding that connection is critical. So embrace SEO and get great at it, and learn how to win the race. So that's it from me. If you have any questions, please post on this blog or make comments to the video, and we'll do our best to answer all of those questions. You can also jump on our Media Heroes Facebook page. The address is just there. Or jump on our website. We continue trying to teach people as much as possible. And if you want to get in touch with me, Alistair Roberts, please do follow me on LinkedIn or get in touch, and do my best to help you as much as possible. Look, good luck in your journeys, and thanks so much for listening today. Bye.